And if you stop the progression early, if you make the commitment that says, hey, the only thing I will do with this guy or this girl is I will go to a movie with them, I will not be in a car alone with them, you have to lay down these structures for yourself. And I've seen it done. It's not impossible. I see it here at Vertical. Nate and Amber, they're getting married soon, and they've done it. I've seen it in my sister and brother-in-law's relationship. They did this stuff to where they love each other so much. If they truly love each other that way, they'll set these boundaries to where, look, hey, we're going to do this, but we will not do this. We cannot do this because we know what will happen.
Does that help you out, Soraya?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much for calling in, because I know that's a question a lot of people have had and probably were thinking about but are just too shy to call in. So thank you so much for doing that.
And thanks for actually holding that type of show.
That's what we're here for. Soraya calling in, and if you got something that you'd like to ask, we're just about out of time, but 505-338-5790 if you'd like to call in tonight and ask about sex as we talk about why sex is good according to God's plan. And it is. It's amazing. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And don't let the world tell you otherwise. One of the things that I've learned, I don't know about you guys, one of the things that I have learned being married, especially when it comes to movie portrayals of sex and whatnot, after I got married and found out what sex was really like, I realized, man, the world's got it wrong. That's not cool at all. That's actually kind of pathetic. They're trying to make it look all romantic and whatnot, but it doesn't compare to what I've experienced. And I just feel so sad that so many people are being duped by the world when it comes to, oh, look how amazing it can be. I just laugh sometimes like, you don't know what amazing sex is. I'm sorry. You think you do, but you're totally wrong when it comes to what makes for amazing sex. Levi, why don't you talk a little bit about what you're going to discuss at the O2 experience on August 3rd before we get to these last couple callers?
Absolutely. The heart of the O2 experience is to expose that the fact that we live in a culture clouded by a sexual smog of impurity, and that it's really although it seems so normal, what's become normal in our culture, mainstream, is actually a deviation. And the original, what's portrayed in the movies as being weird. GQ magazine ran an article a while back on some guys at Biola College in California who were virgins, and it kind of made them sound like freaks. And it actually said they didn't look like virgins; they actually look cool. And it's like, so a virgin is supposed to look uncool? So what's being portrayed as freakish is actually what's the best, and all the normal, quote unquote, is a deviation. So we're going to try and expose that and show that there's a much better plan, and you're not missing out for storing up sex till marriage. You're actually missing out if you don't hold on to God's plan. But what's even at the heart of it all is the gospel. Because just to say to a group, we're getting people from listening to MTV on, all over the place coming, hopefully, people that don't know Christ, just to say, okay, be pure, don't have sex till you're married, okay, great, and then they die and go to hell, hasn't really helped them out too much. So the heart of it is the gospel, to bring the life-saving news of Jesus Christ, and then to show how to live a pure life before God.
And like we said, it isn't until our hearts are changed that we'll be able to make the right choice anyway. You can tell people as much as you want about God's plan for sex, but if they haven't accepted God's plan for their life, well, that plan isn't going to make any sense whatsoever. We have a couple callers that we want to try and get to before we wrap things up tonight. We have Kristen on the line. Kristen, welcome to Rawtalk. And what do you have to say, Kristen?
I just wanted to make a comment and say that I really think that you guys are doing a good job with this broadcast that you're doing. I wanted to say that I lost my virginity at a really young age, and I've been married for 7 years. I'm 28 years old, and there's a lot of bondage there when you do break those limitations, and it does make things harder sometimes because you have to I don't know, you got to deal with your past, and you got to let that go and let God deal with it. But I think that lots of people that are teenagers and stuff like that, they're expecting sex to be extremely wonderful, and it's worth the wait. So if there's anything that I've learned, it was worth the wait, but there's a lot of things that I wish that I hadn't done. So
I think a lot of people can say that, and hopefully people listening will not make the same mistakes we have, right, Kristen?
Yeah, it's hard. It is. It's very hard, but I think that you guys are doing a good job because you have to set those limitations and you have to set those boundaries. Otherwise, you are going to fall into a pattern of, oh, my gosh, I'm going to do this because this is in my mind and this is the temptation that I'm facing, and you can't wait till it's too late or it's going to happen.
That's right. Well, thanks so much for calling in, Kristen. We appreciate you sharing your comments tonight.
Oh, Oh, you're welcome.
Have a good night. And next up, we have Teresa on the line. Teresa, welcome to Rawtalk. What do you have to say?
Hi. I just had a question. I just wanted to know what verse you guys had quoted from the book of Romans.
Okay.
I was referring to Romans chapter 13. Yeah, it is a verse, make no provision for the flesh to fulfill its lust.
Okay, what verse was that?
You know, I don't know, but you could read the whole chapter. It's killer, and you'll find it in there somewhere.
Okay, and I just have one thing to say. I think that everybody should take a look at 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 12 through 20. I'm not too sure if you guys quoted that earlier because I just tuned into you now, and everybody should kind of meditate on that.
Well, that's good advice. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thanks for calling in, Teresa.
Yeah, have a good evening. God bless.
You too. All right, and wrapping things up tonight, we have Crystal. Crystal, welcome to Rawtalk. What do you have to say, Crystal?
Yes, I had wanted to know that if you've been with a spouse for so long and you're married, and then you get divorced after you've had your kids and everything, but yet you go back to them, would you guys consider that a sin?
Well, how would you answer that, Levi?
So the question is, if you were married and you divorced and you reunited with your old spouse? Is that the question?
Yes.
I'd say that that's biblical. I mean, that would be the best ideal ever. I mean, the reason God hates divorce is because of how hard it is on each person and the kids and everyone involved. So if you were divorced and God reconciled you with your old spouse, that would be the highest good possible.
Does that help you out, Crystal?
Kind of. What if we're still not married, though?
Well, that's a great point. If you were full-on divorced, then you would want to just get remarried, but you wouldn't even need to throw a big wedding. You could just go down to the Justice of the Peace or have your pastor in his office redo the certificate and vows. I would say, yes, you do need to be remarried if you are full-on divorced in the state's eyes, but in God's eyes, that would be just killer. There's nothing better that could happen.
Okay.
All right, well, thanks for calling in, Crystal. Hope that helps you out.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night. Well, guys, the time flew, and I'm sure we could do a whole nother hour on this, and especially as people have more questions. But, Levi, real quick, what's one final thought that you'd like to leave with everyone as we wrap up our conversation on why sex is good according to God's plan?
Well, I would just, reiterate, like you've called the show tonight, that sex is good, and that, that sex isn't the problem. Like Joshua Harris wrote in his book by the same title, sex isn't the problem, lust is. Lust clouds and pollutes what sex is, and so we need to strip away what the world's added, lust, and just get back to the original invention, sex, as God intended it, and it's just killer. So.
Well, thanks so much, and Levi Lusko is going to be out here August 3rd for the O2 Experience. Again, there's more info about that at o2experience.com, and there'll be tickets available, Bibles Plus, Parchments, and Chronicles during the regular work week if you want to get tickets for that. And you can even get a group discount, so you might want to bring out your youth group for this and hear more about this topic. And Jason Garcia, what would you like to part with everyone as we wrap things up tonight?
I will, since Levi covered it pretty well, I'll just address maybe the parents of youth out there in Albuquerque or in the state of New Mexico. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to talk to your students or your kids about sex, because here's the honest truth. If you don't talk to your students about sex, the world's going to talk to your students about sex, and the truth is that sex is great. It's the first thing God told Adam and Eve to do is to have sex. 2 books in the Bible are about love and sex, and that Song of Solomon, the book of Ruth, is a love story. So it's interwoven into the Bible, and for us to take it away from God sharing it to them and allowing the TV or the media to share what sex is to them, I think is one of the biggest problems, and maybe the foundational problem that we're having with our youth, is that they don't know what God says about it. And God says, guess what? It's fantastic, and just do it in marriage, and it's worth waiting for.
It is absolutely worth waiting for. I always loved in Genesis where it talks about Adam and Eve, how they were in the garden, they were naked and not ashamed.
And the Bible points it out. They were there, and they were both naked. It points it out.
Not ashamed. I mean, that always blows my mind, and that is a model